We're here for another episode, and we have Amy Wall in the house. So good to have you here, Amy.
Hello, everyone. Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm excited. I am really excited to hear what you're going to be bringing to this episode, because you are an award-winning esthetician leading the beauty industry forward with consciousness. Like that's an interesting piece that we're going to be talking about. Let me let everybody know a little bit more. You know, with 20 years of experience, you were mentored by the formulator who discovered the peptide for the cosmetic industry, giving you a unique insight into the behind the scenes of skincare science. That's pretty awesome. And you've had a fascination with beauty and wellness since 1984, when you began meditating in the mirror while applying your skincare products. I wanted to start right there. Like, what had you meditating in the mirror while you were applying versus, oh, I got to put on my makeup and I got to put on my skin. I gotta do my face. What was that?
Growing up in the 80s,
Yeah.
I actually started staying out of the sun and getting all into my skin at that age. So I was 13 years old in 1984, I believe. I'm going to be 54. So I was I don't want to do the math at the moment, but I was a young teen, and I live in this little town called Mendocino on the Northern California coast. And my parents actually brought me up here in the early 70s for the Back to the Land movement. So they were hippies. And I was exposed to different ideas and counterculture, just all the different things that the hippies were into. So everybody was getting into, exploring your consciousness. So we had a bookshelf full of books like Autobiography of a Yogi and Transcendental Meditation and You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And gosh, I mean, so many more that I can't, let's see, Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain. Those are,
oh my God, yeah, all the biggies.
Those are the four that made a big impact on me. And I was sort of raised by wolves because, everybody was off doing what they were doing. And I was raised in this chicken coop that they had repurposed.
You're serious. You're serious.
I am serious. Okay. In the middle of the woods. My mom was, and also my mom was a nutritionist. So, the natural and organic, that is not, kind of like the Whole Foods people and everything, people that are into that. I'm like, no, I have a deep knowing of natural and organic since I was a little kid.
Wow.
So my mom was teaching me all about ingredients, and, I was chewing parsley when I was like 3 or 4 years old to get the micronutrients and everything. And I knew that, almonds were a source of linoleic acid that my body didn't make myself. And so that was the water that I grew up in. I thought it was totally normal and natural. But because there was some chaos of my childhood, reading was my sanctuary. And I had a grandmother who was a librarian who taught me how to read at a very early age. And so some might call it a trauma response, but basically I read these books. And I also I ended up going to a high school that had a meditation as our morning meeting. It was alternative high school.
God.
It was just what I did. And so I would look in the mirror and do the Louise Hay mirror work. And I would read the back of my shampoo bottle, and I would look at each ingredient, and I would wonder what ingredient was making it bouncy. So I started adding intention into the ingredients, and I created myself as such. And now looking back, it's that I really had a relationship with what I like to call, beauty, the energy of beauty. And so then I became the muse of this beauty energy. And that's really where it all started.
Oh my God, I love that. And I'm so envious of your upbringing. That's like amazing. What? Oh, that's so good. It's been an uphill battle for me trying to figure all this out, and yet we all have our journeys. So beautiful, so beautiful. So I'm curious, you talk about higher selves and connecting your higher self with your beauty routines. You obviously were doing it. What has been the impact on combining the two for you?
Oh man, this is a really, really, really good question. But let's begin and sort of break down maybe, the higher self is like this thing people say, and depending on what
Mm,
religious affiliations are, or what your spiritual relationship is, it can mean something different to many different people. But let me just share a little bit about how I think of it. I think of it as the superconscious. So we have our subconscious, we have our unconscious. I know that we talked a little bit in our pre-chat about your work with these deep parts of ourselves that are sometimes unexcavated and can be affecting our life without us even knowing it. Then we have our consciousness, and then we have our superconscious, and I experience it as being a fractal of the divine spark, and that I can connect in with it.
yeah.
And it is it's my connection to the divine. And so that's what I call my higher self. And also I think of my higher self really also as my most expanded self. And I bring that into my everyday life and living. And what I realized is that beauty is actually not an aesthetic or an age. Beauty is an energy that you can have a relationship with when you are looking at yourself from the lens of the superconscious. And it actually, there's
Oh,
science that shows it increases the length of our telomere, which is the end cap of the chromosome that keeps our DNA strand together. It calms inflammation.
well, what does that mean that about the telomere? Because people may not know.
Yeah, so our telomere is like the end cap of a shoelace. It's got that little plastic cap. The
Yeah.
telomere's function is to keep the DNA strands, the two strands together, the chromosome, is
Yep.
to keep them intact. And so one of the theories of aging is that this telomere starts to become frayed.
Yep.
Then we have cellular senescence, or cell death, because they're not able to replicate.
Right. This is
So
huge because, if that's
yeah.
getting frayed or, like, oh,
Yeah, and so many things that we do it's stress and inflammation that's really aging us. And there's a lot of science coming out around epigenetics that we can get into as well.
yeah, I love
But
it.
it just turns out that not only deeply witnessing the body and flooding it with appreciation, but also bringing in the super conscious energy into the body heals it. And we have lots of data and lots of science to support that now. So this
Yep.
isn't woo-woo. I have a very strong scientific background, as you can probably
Yeah. Yeah.
tell, but consciousness isn't, even energy is part of all of that. So when we start looking at ourselves from this perspective and not making the super conscious of, this higher self that's unattainable, and we have to be good girls and do all the things that our culture is telling us to do. It's like getting outside of all of the right and wrong
Mm,
and
yeah.
good and bad and up and down, and just like, what else is possible? And I think, especially to the woman who may be listening to this podcast right now, who is looking to deepen her connection with herself and to have the most fantastic second half of life ever. This is
Yes.
really exciting news.
That's so awesome. And I I love that you were talking about, science and woo. And I'm always joking with people. I'm like, all right, I'm going to geek out on you now, because I just love the science. I'm like listening to all these podcasts about the telomeres and about the aging. And, I'm quite the woo-woo person as well. So, it's all welcome. It's so all welcome. And epigenetics is such a huge thing. Before we go there, if we go there, I want to keep with this thread about the, tapping into ourselves, our hearts, our consciousness, and tying it to our wellness, to our skincare. And so many women, as you already said, we've been taught, culturally conditioned to look in the mirror or to look at our bodies and to just go, oh, I'm losing my value. Oh, I'm old now, or whatever it is. And our self-esteem, our self-image is not necessarily in sync with the truth of our beautiful beings. And you talk about how self-image actually affects the results of the skincare products and procedures. Can you talk a little bit about like connecting the dots there. Yeah, you're excited about that one.
There's so many things that you said. First of all, let's acknowledge that we have been culturally conditioned and we have cultural implants and norms and beliefs and ideas that not only that society and social media is telling us that we've actually experienced with our own mother and her, all of the lineage, right? So there's all of this stuff that is affecting us, and the overall spell that the mainstream beauty industry is trying to cast and has successfully cast is to make us believe that we're losing value as we age. And I've coined a term, the downward beauty value spiral. And I know because I found myself on it in my 40s. So thanks for acknowledging the value thing, because at the heart of the matter, this is what it is, the heart of our matter. This is what it's all about. And the self-image is actually a part of our psyche that works like a thermostat to keep us. It's part of our survival. And so it's Maxwell Maltz in his book Psycho-Cybernetics in the 1960s. He was a plastic surgeon, folks. Why has this information been suppressed? I'm not into conspiracies. I'm not going to feed into the pendulum. I'm going to stay very like, oh, interesting point of view.
And I love it. Oh my God, I love that you said that.
And then just know that this is how it works, is that our self-image is like a forgotten doll that we threw in the closet and we haven't revisited her. And that's why the inner image work that I do is so powerful. And I'm sure it has some intersection with the work that you do as well. So it's a thermostat, and we can adjust it. And the way that we reprogram it is with mental images, AKA visualization, but not the kind of visualization where you're like on a mountain or on a 20-minute meditation. It can't be like that. It has to be all the time, every day and night. So I teach to do it in the mirror. I teach to do it when you're falling asleep, when you're waking up, when you're daydreaming. You're creating a relationship with this ineffable essence that actually has a mental picture associated with it. And then that starts to become also, it's like your higher self and your self-image start to merge. And that's why I call them spiritual twins.
Wow. I'm loving you. I'm just friggin' loving you. Full disclosure, I found out about you and I'm like, skincare, how does that fit? A lot of the women that are listening, including myself, looking in the mirror. and then I started reading about the consciousness and the connection. And I mean, that is what it's about for me, is how do we truly know our value and connect to the real truth beyond this limiting body of matter. So I just adore what you're bringing and how you're bringing it. I'd like to actually shift gears for a second. And one of the things that you've talked about is natural aging, and that there's like this disconnect I see with people. Oh, I just want to let go and just naturally age, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to let go. Can you share a little bit about this? Because people are really challenged with this arena right now.
I 100%. Thank you for asking this. Super important. You're looking at a 54-year-old woman that does not have any enhancements. I don't even use sunscreen. Okay. I don't do anything that the mainstream beauty tells you to do. And I also have a really deep relationship with beauty. And, we talked about this in the beginning, that I had said it's glamour. That's one aspect of beauty. It's not the full picture of beauty. But if you want to be beautiful in other people's eyes, because that really is fun, and there's like an exchange and you're like sparkling someone else up too, then that is a skill that has not been taught to us. But I think what you're really speaking to is that, and I come across this all the time too, and I'm always like, how do I break through? But what I think it is that there is always this separation between the inner and the outer. And beauty has actually become one of the most highly rejected and least respected aspects of being a woman, because we have been told and sold this lie that beauty is only about a standard, and that beauty is an aesthetic, and that beauty is an age. And we have never been turned on to the fact that the same beauty that we see in a garden and the same beauty that we see in a child or an animal or a piece of artwork is the same beauty that we also possess. But it is up to us to acknowledge it and to be willing to be seen. So
willing to be seen. Yes. Uh-huh.
So how much of what we call beauty is actually about hiding? And so there's that. And then the other thing is that there aren't a lot of alternatives to mainstream beauty. Like, if you want a natural age, and then what does that mean? And even in my world, it's like, it's very subtle. Yes, you can buy products, and my products are functional formulas that are bioidentical and bioavailable topical nutrients. And it just so happens that the act of touching yourself while looking in the mirror with a nutrient, the same nutrient that you would put into your body as food, to nourish it and to feed it, not just to control it or to try to get it, wrinkle free or mark free. I mean, I'm not into any of that stuff. I like anything my skin is trying to tell me. I want to hear what it's saying. So I just think people want a natural age, but there's so much judgment. And I don't know what to say other than that. It takes complete, total, intimacy, self-intimacy. And
that's what I'm hearing. It's like, it's not just, okay, the routine, let's put all this stuff on. There's consciousness that you're talking about. There is a connection and nutrient nurturing presence when we are giving to our skin, touching our skin, looking at ourselves in the mirror. I mean, this is, if people were to be a fly on the wall in my house, they'd be like, wow, she looks in the mirror on a regular basis. I do, because I look at myself and I touch myself and I go, you're doing great, Jeannie.
And that shows.
Look at you, it's like, and, because there are moments, and more moments that I'd like to admit, that it's like, oh, I got these 11s and, I'm noticing, the jowly thing. And so there, because of the conditioning and because I'm on video all the time, there's a part of me that is confronted on a regular basis of my aging. And so I need to continue to stay in that, or on that beam that we're talking about, of loving myself and tapping into the bigger consciousness of this whole thing, versus what's the quick fix that I can do, and love myself along the way. And, I'm a very sensitive person, I'm a highly sensitive person. And I know you sometimes talk about highly sensitive people actually having a beauty superpower. I'm curious what that is, because I totally fit into that. And I just wanted to share that it is a journey of loving ourselves, as well as nurturing and opening to this human journey. So
I need to unpack the 11s and the jowls first.
Yeah, I was just like, I threw a bunch of stuff in there.
I'm ready next. Okay, so I'm glad you brought that. Glad you brought that up, because this is the other thing. Your skin is always, your face is how we face the world is literally like the printout of our consciousness. And there's one other thing I want to say about consciousness. Let me put a little pin right there.
Yeah.
But we are seeing in real time what's happening. And so if you have deep 11s, if we were working together, one of the things I would ask you is, well, A, did your mother have those? And B, are you, what is, okay, so what I would have you do is go ahead and make the concentration expression, and then relax. And then we would go into consciousness, and we would kind of figure out what that emotion that's happening and what you're doing when you're concentrating, what it's about.
Yeah.
Then we would retrain you to lift, because if you're seeing what you're seeing there, when you see a groove in the pattern, if you see a groove in the record, that doesn't mean that we're just going to, we're just accepting and we're seeing everything. That's where the difference is. What we're saying is we're going to talk to our body and we're going to see if this is a pattern that's serving us. If it's not serving us and it's contributing to cellular decay, well, then why wouldn't we just do a little something to reverse it? And
Oh
then,
my God, yes. And that is literally what I've been doing without having heard that. I'm just like, what is this about? I'm like, well, it's me really wanting to listen to somebody. It's me really wanting to connect with somebody. And so there's this intensity of like, okay, let me. And then so, and it's exactly what I've done recently, which is like, do I need to do that? I can stay open-hearted and connect with somebody with a relaxed forehead. But most of my life was this intensity of, so there's the pattern and I need to do the pattern interrupt. So throughout my day, I'm like, how is my forehead doing? Let me just relax. Let me have some spaciousness. Let me massage and remind that I don't need it anymore in order to connect.
You don't need it anymore. And then one last layer there is that to start to cultivate an inner image of yourself having already released it. And then in the jowl area, this is a function of being, at the effect of gravity and going forward. It's actually part of that expression of connecting. And so what we'd want to do is just realize that almost all facial aging is emanating from jaw tension and shortening of the jaw. So self-massage work would be just to really get into the fascia here, stretching, even a little face yoga, but bringing the yoga into face yoga with the consciousness. And the thing I was putting a pin on with consciousness is, it's just a word. What does it mean? It means all these different things. It's that super conscious, energetic connection of the soul spark that you be. For instance, I can just tell your audience exactly how to identify when you're in your soul spark observer mode. Is just only to look outside your life, see your reality. You can see your movie moving by, and then you can look at your thoughts and you can see your thoughts moving by. Well, you're in the center watching both movies. You're in your consciousness, you're in your super consciousness observer mode. So that means that every time you put on any product, anytime you connect, anytime you visualize, anytime you're doing any of that, you're going into that observer mode. And just to know that you are the missing ingredient in everything that you do. So it's great that you're already not. I think what I'm doing is I'm putting words to things that conscious women are already doing. And giving you a framework.
Yes.
100%. Giving you a framework. And the HSP part is that we have a superpower of feeling very deeply. And you can feel very deeply and you can work the muscle of expressing feelings without attaching a story to them, whether those are a song because great artwork makes you feel the beauty. It's not always sunshine and roses and unicorns. It can make you feel something, and that feeling of like being in love and that unrequited, even if it feels painful a little bit, it's like, oh, if you can get into feeling feelings without attaching the story, that means you can start really working in a muse and using glamour to like have characters, and then you can become a character. And it's this different way of looking at yourself, but you stop judging your earthly body as being wrong, and then just start seeing what else is possible. But
so well said. So
it's about feelings.
I love it. I love it. I know that you have a wonderful quiz for this audience, but before we go there, is there any other words you'd like to share before we shift into some really cool opportunities for them in your world?
Oh, I don't think so. I think we covered it. It was just that, to the listener, just to remember you are the missing ingredient in every product and practice.
Oh, so good. I love it. Love it. I love your message. So tell us about your quiz.
Okay, would love to. So over my 40 years of working with the energy of beauty and then becoming an award-winning esthetician, being the top esthetician in the United States in 2016, and really creating this sort of synergy between mind, body, spirit, and skin, I noticed that I was working with 5 different types of energies with women. And so I have created a beauty energy archetype and muse quiz that you can take and really find out some of the missing, information that you might have been wondering about when it comes to taking care of yourself, and how to really create a powerful self-appreciation ritual. So I will give you the link to the quiz, and then I'm also gifting your listeners with free access to my beauty blueprint course, which is going to be everything that they need to begin to practice super conscious beauty. So I'm going to walk you through creating an inner image. There is a 16-page workbook where you will journal, and I have journal prompts and teach you how to do mirror work and really set you up for practicing your skin out of the bathroom, creating a sacred skin space. I have included my morning, my evening, and my weekly rituals. I have got playlists in there. There's my Amazon shopping list that I don't share with the public because I'm not an affiliate marketer, but I curate all like the best things from around the world that are easy to get.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So it's just really how to start practicing your skin as a super conscious beauty expert.
What great resources. Oh my God, I can't wait to do your course.
It's free.
Amazing. And of course, too,
and the code, everything will be listed in the show notes, but the code to get that for free is Junie Moon.
Well, that's easy. I love it. Oh my God, sister. This was such a treat. Such a treat, and so affirming too. I certainly, for me, and hopefully for whoever is listening, that it's an inside job. It's an inside job to connect to the outer cosmos, whatever you want to call it, to like know our value, to open everything that you just shared. Because so often, and we didn't really get into the epigenetics, but so often we're talking about fixing things matter to matter, like let's use this substance to change this. And there's so much more we could tap into. And this is huge and accessible and beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for your time. This was really delightful.
I appreciate you, Junie Moon. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Soul Sister, that's our episode for today. See you next week. Mwah. One more thing before you go. Have you taken my Discover Your Love Avatar quiz? It's a 2-minute quiz that can help you not only know your strengths, your superpower, because you have one, also identify some of your blind spots, some of the things that might be having you in your fear, having you behaving in ways that aren't in alignment with your highest self, the way you want to be when it comes to dating and relationships. And it'll also help you discover why maybe the stars haven't lined up for you yet. Bottom line is, you take this 2-minute quiz, you get a full report in your email with details on how to move forward in next level love, whether you want a partner or not. So you can go to midlifeloveoutloud.com/love quiz. The link is in the show notes as well. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to the station, I'm going to encourage you to do that too, so you don't miss any episodes. And I hope you got a ton out of today's. See you next week. Mwah.